Delirium is the most underrated form of power control in my opinion, although not by that much because it is a debuff that only Mr. Negative has access to right now. So it is still pretty exclusive, but it is just so incredibly powerful because it essentially allows you to get to your special attack before the opponent does. And in certain scenarios, you can even drop your special 2 before the opponent even gets to 1 bar of power, like in Alliance War where you can utilize advanced power boosts. So whenever Negative converts light energy into dark, he inflicts a Delirium debuff, which lowers the opponent's defensive combat power rate by 60%, and this lasts for 0.8 seconds for each light energy converted. So typically what I like to do is parry twice and then evade, which will inflict a Delirium long enough to drop a full combo, and after doing that twice, I'll gain a bar of power before the opponent does. And that's basically the first half of the ramp up, so I just need to get to 1 more bar of power, so I only need to bait 1 special attack for this fight. And that just makes annoying defenders like Chavez a lot easier to deal with, because now you're not worried about her triggering the negative zone, throwing a bunch of heavy attacks and a blockable special 2, because we all know how annoying her AI can be. She's probably worse than Mysterio. And this is very easy to replicate. Chavez is probably the champ I've fought the most in Alliance War over the past year, just because she's almost always somewhere on path 5, and Negative is just too good for ebb and flow, so these are just very routine fights at this stage. Here's another one from this season. I used the exact same strategy and got pretty much the same outcome, so there is very little difference between these two fights. Even the stats are almost identical. Both took 52 seconds and 31 hits. So because of right back at it, she goes debuff immune when you knock her down, so I had to use a special 3 instead of a special 2. But what if I only have to use a special 2? Well, then it becomes a lot simpler because the ramp up is just so much faster. As long as you get at parrying, then you can drop your special attack before the opponent even gets to 1 bar of power. And this just makes Negative such a potent counter for quite a wide variety of fights. Like lately I've been using him quite a bit for spots in Alliance War. Even though he's not a traditionally good spot counter, he doesn't counter miss, he doesn't purify or lower ability accuracy, so you can't really deal with Untouchable and the stacking ruptures. But just the fact that he can get to 2 bars of power before the opponent gets to 1, and drop a special 2 in less than 10 hits, just makes him such a good counter for this fight. So now instead of parrying twice and then evading and then doing that again, I can just parry 4 times to build that first set of light energy before I evade and drop a combo. Then after that first combo, I just need to parry and dex a couple more times to get at least 10 more light energy, and by the time all that is done, I'll be at about 2 bars of power while the opponent doesn't even have half a bar. Once that's all done, I can convert 1 more time and drop a special 2, although I'll sometimes drop 1 or 2 heavy attacks first, just to get some fury buffs for more damage. So this spot fight took 36 seconds and 10 hits. Would have been 9 hits if I didn't use a heavy attack, but that's whatever. And I'm mentioning the hit count because Spot is just one of those champs that gets more annoying defensively as you hit him, since he gains spots, then triggers Untouchable. But in this fight he only gained 1 spot because the hit count was so low. So now we're gonna look at another fight where this power control is extremely useful, and that's against Bishop, because he's just one of those champs where if you don't have an Incinerate immune, you ideally don't want him to throw a special 1. And even if you do, it can still hurt if it's unblockable, but that's no issue for Negative because he will never get to throw that special 1. Although I actually did too many hits in this fight. I did an extra 2 after my first combo, which was actually a mistake, and I dropped 2 heavy attacks before the special 2, so he did get to 1 bar of power. But even if he were to throw a special 1 through my block, I was pretty confident that my Degens would take him out before he can take me out. So this special 2 was a lot stronger than it needed to be. I didn't need the fury buffs at all, but this is typically how I take Bishop on node 50, the safeguard mini boss. So I also have a Battlegrounds scenario to show that it can still be useful when you don't have access to advanced power boosts, or any boosts for that matter. So I have taken Bishop a few times with Negative in Battlegrounds. This was the most recent one with the long distance meta and victory track. So I'm gonna start off by playing this one similar to the Chavez fights. So 2 parries and then evade, drop a combo and repeat that. However, because I don't have an advanced power boost active, I'm basically gonna complete the ramp up and evade again before I drop another combo. So I parry a bunch again because parrying also gives you power without needing to hit the opponent. Oh, and this guy was running unfazed, so I did get punished on my second evade, although it wasn't that bad. He fortunately only dropped 1 hit, so not much damage taken. So now I can drop a full combo followed by a special 2, then I can hold block and use the evade to my advantage. And I remember I used to bait special 2s more often than not, but now that we have relics or strikers, I find it a lot easier to finish this fight without Bishop even throwing a special attack. So now I have one more fight, and this is going to be a synergized showcase. Because with the Nick Fury evade synergy from Quake or Ant-Man, whenever you evade, basically anything you do gets doubled. Since Negative's evade will also trigger the evade synergy, you'll get twice as much dark energy when you convert, and place twice as many Delirium debuffs. So you'll get 2, which might not sound like a lot, but considering each is 60% potency, that means that you can completely shut down the opponent's defensive combat power rate. That means I can do this entire fight without the opponent getting any power whatsoever. Like, you will not see Juggernaut's power bomb move at all for the entire fight. To me, that's pretty insane. Also consider the fact that this fight only took 71 seconds. What other champ can do 500,000 damage in that amount of time without giving the opponent any power whatsoever throughout the entire fight? And the degens from one negative special 2 can do well over 1,000,000 damage with the Valkyrie synergy. And the special 2 applies 2 petrifies, which means you can even reverse power gain. This is also quite useful against mystics with dispersion. So if you didn't know by now, Mr. Negative can be kind of OP in the right scenarios, and getting really good with him just comes down to practice. Like, I've used him so much that I don't really think much about the execution. It's basically second nature. But that's going to be it for this one. I hope you found it interesting, and as always, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.